Morning YouTube, Sean at Top 5 Fit, and today I'd like to talk about 5 reasons why it's a good idea to get the hell out of bed. Now, when I say get out of bed, I'm talking about 4:30 in the morning. Now right away, I know there's going to be a lot of hate coming at me. I'm not a morning person. It's just not good. I've got kids, I've got a job I already wake up early for. I need my 8 hours of beauty sleep. I've heard all kinds of reasons why not to wake up that early. So that kind of gave me, I guess, the idea to create this video on why it's kind of a good idea. So, quick side note. My father was in the military. My sister was in the military, and so were a lot of my aunts and uncles and some cousins. And the one thing that I tend to notice about them is they all wake up before the sun. They all get an enormous amount of work done in a given day. And it always used to kind of almost bother me a little bit that I couldn't keep up. And I never really understood, what was the deal with waking up so early like this? Why was it such a thing? When I got to college, I ended up reading a couple of sleep studies that basically talked about the 90-minute sleep interval. And without going into the details of each of these articles, what they basically stated was, it takes 90 minutes for the average human to make it through a sleep cycle. So that's stages 1 through 4. 4, of course, being your REM stage, your dream cycle, and also the only stage in which you're dumping the necessary hormones to recover and repair from the previous day's activity. So that kind of resonated with me. Went on to do, some camp work kind of thing. And, of course, you wake up super early and you're not wrapping up with them until the end of the day. So whenever I would get a moment to take a nap, if I couldn't get 90 minutes, I just simply didn't do it. All in an effort to work with the body's rhythms. So what has basically, I guess, evolved and developed from that over the years is I try not to sleep more than 6 hours. That gives me 4 90-minute blocks. And what that's turned into is falling asleep, getting into bed about 10 p.m. and waking up anywhere between 4 and 4:30 a.m., close to 6 hours. So why is 4:30 such a big deal? Why is it important to get up so early? Well, let's go ahead and start with reason 1, day planning. We all have activities, we all have things that we want to accomplish in a given day, yet it seems like your back is pushed up against the wall when you wake up at 8 or 9 o'clock. If you're in college, sometimes 10 or 11 if you have late classes. You're essentially closing down the window of time that you have to accomplish said goals. So getting up at 4:30 allows you a very distraction-free time. There's nothing going on at 4:30, nothing. At best you'll see a critter or two run across the road and, you're not even dodging traffic. So it's really a great time to kind of map out what you need to get done in a given day in the most efficient way possible. Especially if you're talking about traveling through the city. I tend to use that time to map out A to B to C to D. If I've got to go to the bank on one side of town and then the, pet store on the other side of the town, the last thing I want to do is be in a position where I'm crossing all of these, different parts of the city that I don't even need to go to, especially doing it more than once. So great time to kind of map out what you need to get done in a given 12, 14, 16 hours, however long it is you're actually staying awake. Number 2, meal prep. Huge, huge, huge. Nutrition is more than half the battle when it comes to reaching your fitness goals. And if you're finding yourself, being a slave to your hunger, so to speak, I've talked about appetite control in previous videos, and sometimes my hunger is it's a demon. It makes me want really, really bad things. And that's not, saying that it's this separate entity that I can't control. It's if you work hard and you train hard, what'll happen is your body's going to want calories. It's going to want certain food items back in its system. And if you don't provide those, your body will figure out a way to find them. And it's usually in the form of something you're not supposed to be putting into your mouth. So by taking that time to actually plan out your day, prep your food, pack your Tupperwares, you're really eliminating kind of a huge obstacle when it comes to getting where you want to be as far as your body's concerned. You know, whether your goals are more health oriented, you just want to, you know, make sure your heart is strong and you're not putting toxins in your body, or you're a high performance athlete, nutrition matters. So that's a great time to make sure that you're eating what you're supposed to be eating. So number 2, meal prep. Number 3, and this is one that kind of hits home for a lot of people, cardio. We got to get cardio done. Now, some people hate cardio. Some people, you know, swear they don't do cardio at all. They just control, you know, their body size and dimensions by diet alone. And that's fine. As someone who is thousands of years old, I try to pay attention to making sure that the heart and the lungs work properly. So even though I can't stand it, I try to get the cardio done. Now, if you're doing it right and you're actually thinking about mileage and you're thinking about time spent, it's going to take you a while, 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours if you're training for some ridiculously long race. But either way, the middle of the day is not always an ideal time for me to take an hour and just go for a walk, or even take a half hour and do speed drills on a treadmill. So that early morning time frame is really a great time to knock out that cardio responsibility and not have it interfere with the rest of the day. And at the same time, it really does kind of wake you up and get you ready for whatever else you have to take on in that given day. So number 3, cardio. It's a big deal. It's something that if you don't get it in, you know, you find yourself 3, 4, 5 o'clock trying to squeeze it in. And if you don't get it done, you feel disappointed because you didn't accomplish it. And the idea is to move through your day and get as much done as you can and be as accomplished as possible by the time you get to bed. So keep that in mind. Number 4, free time. If you wake up at 4:30 a.m., you ultimately create blocks of time for yourself. And personally, I like video games. I like Netflix. I like all of the things that, you know, in excess can create a body that you might not be that happy with. Now, does that mean that these things are the devil? You shouldn't be binge watching shows on Netflix and you shouldn't be playing video games for hours? No, it's, you know, some people make money doing that kind of stuff. Personally, that's not in my line of work, but it doesn't mean I don't like to do it. So if I want to catch up on a show, or if I want to, you know, get a little farther in Clash of Clans or something like that, it usually happens at 4:30 a.m. And I can kind of check it off the list for the day, and then I'm not wasting valuable time in the middle of the day when I should be doing something else. It's also a great time to, you know, let me be clear, not just limiting free time to video games and movies kind of thing. What also matters is your pets, you know, if you have any. I've got pretty good size fish tank habit. Got a dog, got a couple of cats. I tend to prep their food early in the morning, feed them early in the morning. Any and all maintenance that the tank requires, that usually happens before I go out, you know, for any kind of a run or a bike. So it really does free up time during the day to get those activities done before the day starts. So free time, you develop it, you create it, and you end up feeling, I guess, a little more satisfied at the end of the day that you were able to knock off some of these chores, some of these things. So something to think about. And number 5, which is kind of a big deal, it's actually a really big deal, conflict resolution. So I remember hearing a long time ago, somebody said this, I don't remember who, but the emotional response to conflict is usually the incorrect one. Now, there are obviously things that happen in a given day that nobody can predict and you kind of have to deal with on the fly. But if you're in the business of dealing with people, you a lot of times can see conflict coming. And to put yourself in a situation and not be prepared to deal with it usually tends to create a negative emotional response. You yell, you get defensive, you don't necessarily see things through their perspective. Whereas if I know that I'm going to have something coming up with a client, with a friend, with a family member, and it's a discussion that has been put off for whatever reason because, it's uncomfortable, I can kind of think about it during that 4:30 a.m. block with no distractions on how to make sure it goes smoothly and that both sides end up with what they want. And maybe that's something that this country could use, as a little bit of conflict resolution practice. But that number 5 reason, it's not necessarily the end all to be all of why you should get up at 4:30, but it definitely helps to kind of know, hey, something bad could happen today. And if it does, here's a couple options and ways to deal with it. And that kind of helps make life a little bit smoother, a little bit more comfortable to deal with. So thanks for watching. Thanks for a little bit of your time. If you have any questions or concerns, comments, feel free to throw them in the box below. If there's any topics that you would like me to cover on these morning strolls, make sure to drop that in the box as well. And don't forget to subscribe because there will be more videos. Thanks again. Have a great one.